Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ink and Iron. My name is Ben. I am your creative crafter of color and canvas.
And I'm Ryan. I'm your malevolent master of metal music.
What song do you have for us today, Ryan?
I have a fun one that many more people may know, and one that I know you know very well. I have the song Hospital for Souls by Bring Me the Horizon off their 2013 album Sempiternal.
Hold me close, don't let go. I know you said last time that I would be excited. I didn't know what to expect, but anytime I see Bring Me the Horizon, I'm pretty good to go with that. So
I could have
but
picked
you
any Bring Me the Horizon song.
but I like that you picked this one. I've listened to all their stuff many, many times. But this is one probably I haven't given enough attention, even though I knew I really liked it. Very different, not a different vibe from the rest of that album, but definitely a little bit more standout from some of the big ones, like Sleepwalking and Can You Feel My Heart? It's a little bit more slow and I don't even reflective. Maybe it's you can definitely tell there's a weight to the song that while the other ones are also very intense, this one definitely has you can feel the personal nature of it through a lot of the words. I feel like you get the sense that like Ollie, who the singer, that's the lead singer. If you didn't know, of Bring Me the Horizon, for those of you watching, you can really get the sense that he's questioning his reality a little bit. Like it almost feels like he's kind of lost or not really sure what's happening. And I will admit, after I did the piece, I looked up some information about it, and it's funny that I said it kind of felt like some of the words reminded me of having experience with going through therapy or some sort of counseling. It is very closely tied to that, so I thought it was interesting that I grabbed that. It really shines through in the words. It's like he's pleading for help and asking for attention, but doesn't really know what to do. So I kind of paired that into like a slow descent or even like an ascent because he uses that repeated refrain at the end. It's like the challenge of making real change. It's like someone who is struggling and trying to overcome that struggle, but just feeling like they're going through the motions, not really they can't tell if they're actually making any progress. And I pulled out these couple of phrases or a couple of lyrics. Even hell can get comfy. And he talks about catching glimpses of heaven all around him in the things that he does. So that first line being like, we don't realize sometimes when we're struggling to the point that we need therapy, it just becomes normal. So talking about like, hell can become comfy, not necessarily in a good way, but you don't even realize that you're there anymore. When all around you, there's actually glimpses of what you need. And, your friends, he talks about literally in the lyrics, if with my friends, the music I make, it's all there. And then finally that last refrain, the hold me close, don't let go, watch me burn. You really see that full cycle in that lyric. It's like he just needs something, he needs someone, but he feels himself falling apart. And it all of these really heavy emotional topics really come through in the song, from the lyrics to the mood of it to the whole opening monologue. It's a great, fantastic song. So all of that brought me to the image of a staircase. Immediately what I kind of thought of, like I said, was a staircase, and then also that famous drawing of like it's an illustration of like a bunch of staircases just going everywhere and making one room, but they all connect. And um, that was kind of what came to my head. But I wanted to make it a little bit more like you'll see at the top there. It's like you can see there's an end in sight, but you don't know which staircase is going where, what door you need to take. And as I add in the color, I try to communicate, like I said, that sort of slow descent or ascent into madness and trying to get to the goal, but not really knowing if you're even doing anything. You're just trying. You just have to keep going, even though you can see the end.
The idea of numerous paths to I will say I didn't expect to come on here and see MC Escher. That was not my that was that was not what I thought we were going to see. But I think it's interesting because when the song deals with the side of addiction, I know that that has some meaning to Ollie within this song. Like you think of the many different opportunities and paths that whatever you struggle with, you may try different things move your path or move yourself forward to get to where you want to go. And some of those paths will just go farther down, some will take you up, but then you can just fall off into a different path. It's interesting how everyone's experience is different, but it's also similar in certain ways. So the idea of, that struggling, whether it's a depressive nature or addiction, any number of those illnesses that you would fall under can all fall into the same ascent or descent at some point in your life.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. And while this song in particular has to do with, drug addiction, I can definitely think of um sometimes when like it's interesting you talked about like depression. Of course, everybody has hard times, but like clinical and medical depression is a little different, obviously. But even in my own experiences with sadness or even mild depression, I've been through therapy myself. I'm a big advocate for therapy. Um, but when you're the one that's caught in these patterns or in these, this lifestyle, the decisions that you're making, the feelings that you're feeling, it's just it's so hard. And it's so hard to recognize it on your own sometimes.
Well, and not necessarily asking you this, but more of a rhetorical question. I
Yeah.
feel like it's very easy. Well, it's maybe not even a question, it's more of a statement. I feel like in the song, whenever it talks about it's basically him quoting like the lines that a therapist would use, right?
Yes.
It's like right before the end of the song, and he's, how are you feeling? Do you want to talk about it? This, I feel like it's easy in that sense to just feel maybe like a number or feel a little bit
Hmm.
more lost because you don't know, like, you don't know what experience you're expecting to get out of it, right? You're going into it with the hope that, I'll be better, that I can be better through this, but you also feel like you're being asked these same questions with no true end result. You don't know where you're going through this. And I feel like that can be a struggle too. And that's why I say it affects people in different ways, because we all have that same experience. We may all get asked those same questions, but how we respond to it is always going to be different, right?
Right. Yeah, everybody kind of has their own, staircase maze, and everybody handles it differently. Maybe you're running up the staircase, maybe you're walking, maybe you're jumping from paths. Um, I like and I want to go back to you were talking about, the lyrics when it comes through like he's talking to a therapist and some of those questions. Like that's really sometimes where it's so funny because while those can be the answer, like those are the questions you should be asking yourself, it all feeds into the maze, right? It's just so hard to deal with and wrap your mind around. The reason I chose the colors that you're seeing now, so we have all the lines in. Now you see all the different staircases. I wanted to make it very like dark and broody, but
Mhm.
also very like playful with light. And because it's a bunch of different perspectives of all these places where it's supposed to be one room, but really you could kind of dive into any one specific part and see that it's like its own thing too. I wanted to communicate that journey that you were just talking about, how we all go through it differently. And sometimes that light might look different to you, to me, to other people. You know what I mean?
One of the things I find interesting is as it all comes in together with the darkness, to the paths are lit as you lead into them. I know this might sound crazy, and I don't know if other people would experience this too. Some of these doors feel more ominous than others, even just
Hmm.
in the white. This one all the way over here on the left that just colored in, that's kind of sideways, that feels
Hmm.
like it's in a scary movie. Like that, like if you were like pick a door to go through, I wouldn't go through that one, because that, even on its side just like that, feels very scary. I
Right.
can't explain it, But and then the one that's kind of in the foreground that's a lot bigger, that feels welcoming. Like I could walk through there and there might be an answer.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you'll it's funny that you say that because I think you'll experience more of that as I add more light to some of the doors. Um, and I'm glad that you say that too, because it really does mean that each one kind of has its own, it's like its own piece within the larger piece. And that's exactly what I wanted it to be like. It's like this is all one journey, but really it's like if I were to place you in the staircase on the far right that go like the really tall one that goes up to the top door, where would you come out?
Yeah, who knows?
Exactly. Right. And it's like in talking about how, some of them look scary and some of them look more welcoming, that I think that ties back really well into, the point of this song and that struggle of like, you're going to come across a lot of doors when it comes to like the road to healing and the road to getting better. And not all of them are going to be welcoming. And you might not always want to do it, but each one, it has a value, right? And having the bravery and the courage to take it on is not always an easy choice or an
Uh,
easy move to make.
I'll also say in the bottom left-hand corner, the little swirl down there, genuinely didn't realize that that was a door at
Yeah,
first.
honestly, that was my failed attempt at making a spiral staircase. So I just kind of made it into a path.
No, I think it's fantastic. Like I said, I mean, it's still a path because I
Yeah,
mean, you can identify that now that there's a door, but I didn't realize it at first because the rest of the drawing is like insinuated that staircases lead up or down to the doors, but I that's just another path, right? Like you said,
right.
everything's a path, so you're gonna
Yeah,
follow it. And if you see that light, which is perceived by the light that you have in the doors, you might choose to follow the spiral.
right. I feel like a lot of this one, I feel like I'm saying a lot of things, but I don't know if I've formed a coherent thought since we actually started talking about it,
Well, I think
which is
I
funny
think
though. Yeah, go ahead.
it really is a metaphor for you can use it as the choices we make, the people we meet. You can use the metaphor for a lot of different things, is that everything matters or every person matters, but it's up
Mhm.
to you to decide who you're around and what you do. And there's a lot that goes into it, but in the theory of addiction, depression, there are times where you just fall victim to this because you don't know better. And
Yeah.
that's where it institutes the help part of it, but it still is applicable that you're going to meet people, you're going to be around people, and you're going to make these decisions. Now, are you going to make the wrong decisions sometimes? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that there's not a light for those who want to see the light, but it doesn't mean that there's not going to be darkness for those who continually fall down the same path. It can be so different just depending on which door you come out of or which door you go into.
All right. So you should see now I've paused it. This is the final piece. There towards the end while we were chatting, I wanted to make it feel kind of painted, but I threw in a lot of like overlays of light and then also some very dark shadows. And then also tried to make the doors feel like they were shining a little bit more. And honestly, I gotta say, I really appreciate these videos. I've been pushing myself to try different techniques and try different things. This might be one of my favorite things I've ever made. Like, as far as really, like I said, even though I feel like I've been babbling this whole time and haven't formed a coherent thought, it's been a day. I really genuinely am proud of this piece, and I feel like it communicates everything that I was thinking.
I've seen a lot of your work and I think this is fantastic. And I think it is a great representation for this song. I think there's a million different ways you can go
Hmm.
because just to speak on the song for a second, you mentioned it earlier, but this song is very different than every other song on this album. Like this is
Hmm.
an album that is like a turning point for not only Bring Me the Horizon, but this is widely recognized as like one of the most popular metal albums of the 21st century. This song is not, it's not that it doesn't fit on the album, but it's quite an interesting close to the album that, you're kind of dancing around the whole time and then you're like, "Oh, wait, this is not like the other." I can't remember how many songs are on the album, but this is not like the rest, right? This
Yeah.
is different. I do want to say too, I want to give the credit to my girlfriend Maria for giving me the idea for this. When she said, "I think this one," I was like, "Oh yeah, this is interesting." So she's got one on the song selection sheet now.
Yeah. Excellent choice, Maria. And thank you for contributing the idea because, like I said, I enjoyed this one so much. This has been another episode of the Ink and Iron, just Ink and Iron.
Whatever you want to call it.
See you next time.
Hold me close. Don't let me go.